Let's go ahead and get started with how to train, manage, and hire associate doctors. We're going to cover some really basic principles first, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to cover a few basic business principles. Then we're going to go into what are the criteria, what are the benefits, all the different benefits of hiring associate doctors. And by the way, there's downside. I say it's like anything. You can buy bad gold, you can buy bad diamonds, you can get involved with bad associates. And by the way, most of the time they don't work out. 70% of the times they don't work out. And the only reason they don't work out is because the doctors have not been trained. They think there's just one model. They think there's only one type of associate doctor and that's it. And that's not the case at all. But the doctors that I have that actually learn this, they have like a 95% success rate. It's huge, the success rate, once you know this. And that's what this is. This is accumulation of me, hiring, training, and managing a lot of associate doctors. I mean, you got to think how many doctors that I have to interview and train to open 77 offices in 20 states. Well, it was not 77. You could easily tie 3 to 5 per office I had to interview. And, so I had to figure out a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff I had to figure out through failure. Matter of fact, my first satellite office was a complete failure. That's when I learned real quickly about, the do's and the real basics of do's and don'ts of associate doctors. Okay, so having said that, and then we're going to go into how to market for associate doctors, how to interview associate doctors. We're going to go into the 7 different business models. There's 7 different business models of associate doctors. There's not just one. And everybody thinks there's one. There's not. And I'm going to go into the variables that'll determine which type of model. And so you have to know the different models because you have to know which one you want to get involved with. And you have to know what are the characteristics that you want for that particular model. Because if you don't know that, it's like taking a square peg and trying to put it into a round hole. It won't work. It naturally won't work. And that's why you have to know this. And so that's why when we interview doctors, we know all the characteristics and all the models. And then I always, when I interview the doctors, I say, this is based on the interview and all the characteristics we look at in the interview. I go, this would be the best model for that particular person. Say, you don't just stuff everybody into one model. That's when you'll find trouble. So having said that, then we'll go into the interview process. We'll go into the basics of the contract and the salary and the wages, and then we'll go into management. So we're going to cover a lot of major components, pretty much what you need to know to hire, train, and manage associate doctors and make it successful. And it has to be successful for both parties or it will not work, period. So we'll show you how that works. So of the 7 different models, it varies, what will make it work more or less. So we're going to go into that in great detail, okay? And then I'll share with you, what's the best type of doctor. Let me just share that with you right now. What I always recommend is first you learn how to maximize the profitability in your office. You know how to keep patients, you know how to proactively get patients, and you know how to maximize your dollar per visit. Okay, to where you're as busy as you physically can be. That's the first step, okay? You don't learn that, you're in trouble. You don't need to be hiring an associate doctor. You need to be working on your own skills. Next, when we hire the associate doctor, what I recommend, now we'll go into the models, but I'm going to recommend the first type of associate doctor is the kind that sticks around for a long period of time. Well, that's a very unique type of person. I'm going to go into those characteristics. And then another model, somebody that'll come and stay, but they'll leave, but we'll restructure the business relationship so they stay. Because it's better for somebody who's well-trained to stay than it is to leave. That's why. So those are the 2 real common ones. And then, of course, one of the easiest ones to do is, and I say this all the time, some of the easiest money you'll ever make is when you do personal injury and you sell the attorneys and you have 3 or 4 attorneys that are referring you, they want what you're doing. And then they always have other cases in another part of the county. And so you just ask those 3 or 4 attorneys, you say, hey, what other city do you have clients in that are too far to come to my office? And how many clients do you get there a month? Well, once there's a certain amount of clients in that area, that business is already guaranteed to you. You've already created deferrals. Matter of fact, these attorneys will even ask you, hey, I got some clients over, can you go over here? The mistake doctors make is they only do it with one attorney. So they run their butt over to another area and open an office. And then what's the huge mistake they make? They do it on their own. So now they're running 2 practices. You can never max out your profitability in your office working part-time. You can't run back and forth between 2 practices. And what should have happened is the doctor should have had more than one attorney having referrals to create stability, number one. Number two is he should have hired and trained an associate doctor and put that associate doctor over there, and he should have maximized his office and then maximized that office and then went to the 3rd PI office. That's what should have happened, but that's not what's happening. We see really stupid stuff going on. I mean, I got doctors that aren't doing well. They're seeing 80 visits a week, and next thing you know, they're opening a 2nd office. And now they're working 6 days a week, part-time here and part-time there. I got one guy he goes 2 hours away. He drives 2 hours away to his 2nd office. I mean, he needs to be on medication. You don't just jump. I mean, there's business principles of stairs and steps to get to the next level. Okay. Having said that, let's get going on this. So here's number 1. So, and I recommend that for everybody. You should at least have one associate doctor. That makes life a hell of a lot easier, creates freedom, but I always recommend 2. Because so if one leaves, you're not stuck. If you got one associate doctor and they leave, you're stuck with doing it all. And let me tell you, once you work part-time, you do not want to go back in that office full-time. You will not. It'll be like taking a free animal and caging them. So that's why I say, this should be a mentality like, oh, I want one. No, you should just always be thinking about hiring and training associate doctors and moving them into one of the 7 models, depending on, how they interview. That should be a process. I mean, it's not real smart for you to know how to do everything, all the systems, and then not leverage it. That's not real smart. So once you learn all the systems, it's good to learn how to leverage it into one person. And then it wouldn't be real smart to stop there. Like, wait a minute, I know all the systems, I know how to leverage it, I know how to hire and train. I think I'll stop now. No, that's the easiest money you'll make now is leveraging it. It just takes a little bit of sweat equity. That's it. And you're doing it anyway. You're in your chiropractic office anyway. Why not train another person and make another $200,000-$300,000 off of it? Why not train 2 at the same time and make $600,000 in addition to what you're doing, because you're doing it anyway? See, you got to think a little differently than, oh, I just want to practice the rest of my life. Okay,